Welcome to Fireside Chats with Mats. So, I did something about Hansi Kirsch and his beautiful and gorgeous band. I will now, however, it will be that I'm going to talk about my favorite metal singers in general. So let that be, maybe let that essentially be much of the segment for Hansi Kirsch. But yeah, Hansi Kirsch is, well, maybe not. Hansi Kirsch is one of my top 5 metal singers that I'm going to be mentioning here. Everything from Beyond the Red Mirror with his gorgeous stuff in like the Game of Thrones song, The Throne. What a gorgeous song. But a gorgeous song with like very theatrical lyrics and or theatrical performances. Like he sounds like he's doing some Gerard Way, My Chemical Romance kind of sing-songy stuff. And like in that song, it's like, we must serve the fire. We must admit we are liars. But then like either in that song or somewhere else in the album, he says like, you will die in fire. Like it's just he does these crazy operatic things, but then he also does these like really fun, like interesting bits. And then the song like Miracle Machine, it's like it's not a cappella, but it's like it's as if it's not him with the band, it's him with like an orchestra, which I suppose they actually did in one of the albums and people didn't like it. I don't have that one actually, but I'll probably get it at some point. But like that song is incredible, Miracle Machine. We must believe in something that I would call a miracle. And like it's so gorgeous, like, and it's so sad. Like he's singing as if they're on a journey, and to persevere they must believe in something that he would call a miracle. Like they must believe in a miracle. And then the final song in that album is The Grand Parade, where he sounds like he's just leading this heavenly, just like all these white feathers and angel wings as he's rollicking down the street, and all this like colorful, gorgeous like parade of like creatures and fantasy people and stuff are going down the street, celestial gatherings as he like sings the grand parade. Like it's that was almost certainly not the cadence, but what a gorgeous song. He's like a heavenly singer. He is heavenly. Now another singer who has long hair, whom I would say is actually kind of heavenly, but is actually like literally to this day, I just saw a comment. Someone made a video like the genius of Lars's drumming in Metallica, and clearly Metallica, if they've released great albums and Lars has been the drummer the whole time, then he's been a part of great albums. And I've heard that drummers are sort of like the most important thing in metal in some sense, or like it's important to have a good drummer. So if he was the drummer for great albums, then clearly he was doing something right, you would imagine. But someone said, well, we certainly wouldn't want to say that Dave Mustaine's voice is good or something. And it was just like, that's BS. Like Dave Mustaine has a perfect voice for singing, and he actually has like really good singing. Like in the song The Hardest Part of Letting Go, which the title sounds like the song sounds actually. It's a very sort of like, very kind of wispy, whooshy kind of ballad kind of song. And Dave Mustaine, he does so well with the ballad kind of stuff. I love his voice doing that, but he's also a great singer of, more high energy kind of confrontational stuff. So like his singing in one can't forget his showmanship in songs like Peace Sells, or which is one of those song titles that is different from the album title, but it's the album title is named after the song. Peace Sells, but who's buying? And then the song is just called Peace Sells or something like that, whichever came first. But then you have him doing like similar showy kind of stuff in the song where he says, hello, meet the real me, sweating bullets from Countdown to Extinction. But then like in A Countdown to Extinction, he has beautiful singing, like Countdown to Extinction. Like his voice sounds like it has the weight of like Metallica's entire band in like certain songs in like the Black Album. Like his voice sounds as hefty and beautiful as like The Unforgiven, but just his voice alone. And then of course the guitar playing is incredible and stuff, and it's just. But I love Dave Mustaine's voice, and like his as a lyricist too. Like if he does write all of his lyrics, like in songs like Family Tree, when he says like I know they were doing it to you, but don't go doing it to me, or like this. There's a real sneer. People talk about Dave Mustaine's sneer, but there's a real sneer that's like a righteous, not a self-righteous, but just a righteous sneer. Like where Dave Mustaine will like, he'll have some righteous anger in a song, many different songs, and it'll sound just really gorgeous because there is a sneer, but there's also some sort of like Axl Rose kind of beauty there, like with the song Euthanasia off of the album Euthanasia. Like there's a real, like, who would have thought we would spend money on drugs and guns instead of educating our young, but that's what they did. Like it's so beautiful. And also, I would put him with Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden as like the perfect kind of lead singer to match with the band's mascot character in the Vic. Now, on another day, this guy may have been an honorable mention or just not mentioned, but I think he does deserve to be here. That is, and I've got my other two people now, I think. That for this list iteration, that would be Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. There's a term called like fry screaming, or like like frying your vocals or something. And Lamb of God with Randy Blythe, I don't have all of their albums. I have some of their albums, but I don't even think I have most of their albums. But I have 5 of their albums. But Lamb of God, the albums that I have that I'm sort of basing this on, As the Palaces Burn, Ashes of the Wake, of course, and then Omens and 7 Sturm und Drang, the deluxe version of it. But Randy Blythe, he sounds like, I would say similarly to my crediting Dave Mustaine's sneer for really packing some power with like what he's talking about. He's like talking about things that are truly screwed up, like not like, oh, you're bullshit, like stuff that was given to you in all cases anyway, or like the emphasis being like, oh, this was just given to you to get mad about. Like Dave Mustaine is actually singing about some things that like truly one might have some righteous anger feeling about. And Randy Blythe is the same way. He's singing about some stuff that is just true, like righteous anger. But whereas Dave Mustaine has kind of a sneer, Randy Blythe has a scream. He has a wail. He has a tortured soul coming out in tatters. And it's just so gorgeous. And this girl who has a hilarious list of favorite death metal vocalists, and I think she might be like one of the Arch Enemy lead singers or something, or like she's supposed to be a death metal vocalist or similar to that, or a symphonic metal or whatever. But she's doing like her list of her like top 10 favorite death metal vocalists, and like almost 0 of them are actually death metal, and she sort of acknowledges that she's not really picking death metal people, but one of the people she picks is Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. And he does, like, with the band style, and it's just like, it's not quite death metal, but it's about as close to death metal as... It's taking all the beautiful stuff from, like, melodic death metal singing, and just having it be more... What do I even have it as? Groove metal here? Metalcore. Yeah, it is a little more metalcore, similar to like Trivium singing, or like, is Killswitch Engage considered metalcore? I mean, not really that similar to Killswitch, but like similar enough in terms to Trivium in terms of just the beauty of it, but like much more of a rasp, Like, he is the king of the rasp. And I mean, some of these lyrics that he delivers, and he is also the king. He has like perhaps my favorite example of a lyric that I apparently misheard, and I think the way I heard it is actually more. Well, it's actually much more controversial, to the point where, like, when I heard it, I was thinking, how the hell did they get away with saying this? Like, this, they could probably get, like, sent to jail for, like, singing this on an album, and putting this out there in public. And you might say, like, what the hell could it have been, Matt? Well, here we go. So the lyrics, and I think the lyrics are essentially like saying this, but not quite this directly. The real lyrics supposedly are. I'll go to the Genius lyrics. I hate the website Genius because of the website like setup and the videos that are playing all over the place, and you're trying to X out of them, and it's horrible. But okay. Okay, yeah, so the lyrics are actually, it's when murder is justice that martyrs are made, a one-gun salute for the new Independence Day. But what I thought he said was, it's when murder is justice that martyrs are made, or actually, I think I didn't like really hear, like I didn't sort of cognize, I didn't get what he was putting down lyrically there. Like, I didn't like understand what he was saying essentially, or like I didn't listen closely enough to follow what he was saying in that first line. But the second line here, a one-gun salute for the new Independence Day. That's supposedly the actual line. But what I heard him say, instead of the new Independence Day, I thought he said the UN committee something. And I think I like it. It sounded to me like he was saying the UN committee, and then he said something else, and I didn't like understand what he said. And so just put those words that I was saying I thought I heard here into a one-gun salute for the new Independence Day. But the new Independence Day, take that out and put in the lyrics that I said, and imagine how controversial that song would sound. Like, I was sitting there thinking, like, this is freaking awesome. Like, in terms of, like, this guy is saying something where I'm surprised he didn't go to fucking jail. Like, and it's, like, here on, like, a big popular metal album. Like, one of the more popular metal albums of the last, like, 25 years, probably. Like, and this even, like, maybe semi-mainstream popularity. I'm not sure, but this fucking guy, he's saying this shit, and it turned out, I guess he didn't say what I thought he said, but I was like, oh man, like I was kind of worried for him. Although this album was like 15 to 20 years old when I finally listened to it, but okay. But then after that, he says, they'll hallow your name for your sacrifice. And this is where it actually seems to me like it's saying a similar thing to what I thought it was saying, but just with a different noun phrase in place of what I thought it was saying here, but yeah, this album, like, basically he's saying, like, they'll hallow your name for, like, assassinating somebody. Like, that's what the lyrics are saying. It's when murder is justice that martyrs are made, a one-gun salute for the new Independence Day. They'll hallow your name for your sacrifice. That's pretty, even though he didn't say something specific enough where it sounded as crazy as I thought it was there, but no, he's still literally saying, like, he's literally, like, sort of doing a rah-rah chorus for, like, a political assassination. And it's like, oh my effing God, like, this is insane. This is really edgy shit. And for him to, like, go on stage and sing this, and the thing is, he's such a good singer. Like, he writes these lyrics that are so rhythmically perfect for his voice to just throw himself at. And it's like he's throwing the lyrics all over the place. Like, they'll hallow your name for your sacrifice. But even the first half of that stanza is even better. It's when murder is justice that martyrs are made. A one-gun salute for the new Independence Day. Like, I did that pretty badly there, but like there's this very like back and forth rhythm to it. He's one of my favorite singers, not only because of how beautiful his voice sounds, how crisp. Like, that's the main feature, similar to like some of the vocal sounds of the guy from Avenged Sevenfold in like some of the stuff from their self-titled album, which I just think is incredible. And he might be an honorable mention for this list, but I don't think he's not one of the people I was thinking of prior and saying like I've got my guys here. But he is, this guy is like similar to. Also, he's kind of similar to the System of a Down guy, Serge Tankian, I think, and Darren, whatever Darren's last name is, like sort of similar to them both. Like the way they do the yin and yang, like he has kind of some of both of those things in his persona, and it's just very showy. It's very rhythmic. It's very fun. Like the rhythm of his words, it truly is similar to rapping in the sense that the rhythm of his words here are just as important as the sound of his voice, and it's all beautiful. It's all so beautiful, and it's beautiful. And all beautiful. Okay, and now let's see if I have my last two guys in mind. Well, who did I have thus far? I had Randy Blythe. I had the Blind Guardian guy, Hansi Kirsch. Did I have anyone other than that so far? Because I'd thought of all of them. All five. Well, let me put them down here anyway. Jonathan Davison or whatever. The Korn guy. Oh, and then Dave Mustaine. So, Blind Guardian, Megadeth, Lamb of God, Korn, and who was the last guy? Oh, yeah, and I know the last guy. Okay. Okay, well, let's do the Korn guy, because I've already told you. So, Jonathan Davison, it's crazy. Like, I literally had like 6 of Korn's albums on CD, like when I was like 13 or 14 years old. Like, I got Untouchables around the time it came out. I got fucking the next one around the time it came out, Take a Look in the Mirror. After Taking a Look in the Mirror, I stopped listening to Korn. And I really didn't listen to them that much for how many CDs I had of theirs, but like I just kind of left Korn on the shelf for a long time, sort of a little after Take a Look in the Mirror, which I actually liked. Take a Look in the Mirror has a really chunky energy. Like, it's very much Korn kind of doing straightforward kind of like almost stadium rock / metal / new metal, but it's really fun. Like, it sounds really good. And like there's Nas is in one of the fucking songs, and it's an incredible song, and Nas has a really smooth verse, and that's one of my favorite like Nas verses in terms of how enjoyable it is actually. On the fucking Korn song. It has a similar kind of energy and momentum to some of Nas's lyrics or some of his performance on or maybe even one of the whole verses or the whole song on Drunk by Myself from the Lost Tapes. But it's just this gorgeous like Nas verse and this awesome Korn like chunky guitar riffs. Like, it's not Korn doing their sort of like kind of so heavy it's uncomfortable kind of rhythmic and like really dark and dingy kind of atonal stuff from before. And once you get into that stuff, like that stuff's really cool as well, but like it's them doing just very defined, very easy to hear chunky guitar riffs, and it's an awesome album. I really enjoy it. Is it really as good as their other stuff? No, it sounds like more mainstream. It sounds like they're doing more radio stuff, but it's really enjoyable radio stuff. So, I don't know. I would say, is it more easily enjoyable than other stuff by them? Ooh, absolutely. Give someone this album over like any of their other albums, minus a few songs here and there, and they'll probably enjoy it much more readily. But and I would include like Untouchables in that. I love Untouchables, but I didn't even realize how good Untouchables was until like literally I think it might have literally been, maybe it was before, but maybe literally after I went to jail, and like so literally like 20 years plus, or 20 years or so after Untouchables came out, and I saw Korn. I saw part of a live performance of theirs in like Camden or something. Like, oh, Korn's still performing live. They're still doing what? Really? Like, okay, let's check this out. And they said something about like, this is the anniversary, the X 15th, 20th, whatever anniversary of Untouchables, and everyone cheered. And I thought, like, Untouchables, like, I remember that album being kind of like unpleasant and stuff. Like, I sort of felt about that album how like one might feel looking at the album cover, which might tell you how much I had really dived into the album much. But you know, I was, after that it was like, man, like Korn considers that album like some kind of like notable album in their career. I'll go back and listen to it because I remember it being like actually really unenjoyable and really like muddy and really seeming like just sloppy. And I went back to it and it was like, this is one of the most beautiful albums of all time. And Jonathan Davis's, let's just say John's singing in the song Hollow Life. John's singing and the way the instrumentation behind him like works together in the song. What's the song? Let me look it up here. The song Here to Stay, where I think it's Here to Stay, the one where he's actually, I'm going to look it up because it's important to this. I mean, I love Korn, and I think Jonathan Davis, or John, I think John is such a good singer. Let's say Jonathan. I think Jonathan is such a good singer because Jonathan isn't John, and John isn't Jonathan. If you ever had a friend named John, you may know that, generally. But, or Jonathan may be Jon, but not John usually. I hate this fucking site. Okay. Oh, I cannot give any more. Yeah, okay. This is, it might be some of my rap fan coming out in all this stuff, but part of why I like John from Korn so much is his rhythm. It's like he's rapping, and in some songs he actually is rapping, like particularly in the song All in the Family, but then other songs like he gets fairly close to rapping, or at least it sounds a little rappier maybe. Or at least All in the Family anyway. But I mean, part of the big thing about John's vocals, a huge thing about it is the rhythm. And so like he does scatting, he does like little vocal things here and there. Like he is like doing a performance auditorially. Like he is the Ghostface Killah of metal music maybe. But he's like, you know, he comes to shit that's all types of shapes and sounds, and where he lounges is stomping grounds, and he lounges in pretty fucked up places, but like, and there's an earlier song where he's like, why don't you get the fuck out of my face? No. Won't you get the fuck out of my face? No. Won't you get the fuck out of my face? No. Won't you get the fuck out of my face? No. And like that last one, I did nothing really to approximate what, except maybe in the sense of like the impact it has, like the, you know, the intended one or the presented impact. That last one, it's one of the greatest screams, fry screams, or just metal screams I've ever heard anywhere. That's from the song Good God. But pay attention to the rhythm as it leads up to it. Like he's like cocking back. Like he's basically like loading up like the weapon that he's going to blast in your face. Like the weapon of rhythm that he's going to blast the payoff of, the payload in your face when he says, no! But I mean, so in the song, so like there's very much a rhythmic component. Like it is truly, it might sound funny, but it is truly like similar to my enjoyment of rappers. Like I think Vast Air, not Sea Raised Walls, I think it was Vast Air who said like something like, I'm like Hendrix on the mic, but I don't play guitar. I don't play the guitar, I play my cadence. People play their cadence. And I guess, you know, singers play their cadence often enough anyway, but like there's a certain sense of like kind of rappy playing your cadence, like similar to the guy in Slayer, Tom Araya. Like he's very rappy. Like it's almost like he's like rapping for their entire career, really. Like at night they or at dawn they sleep. At dawn they sleep. Like he's everything he says is kind of rappy. Like the Slayer guy, almost everything except for like some like more singy moments, it's kind of rappy. And but like there's a rappiness where like they really get in the pocket, so called, as someone might describe it in rap. And like so John from Korn, or like a Dave Mustaine sometimes, or Randy Blythe, really, they can like they have such a good flow, like similar to RZA saying, I flow like Christ when I speak the gospel. And then he says in his little annotation there in the Wu-Tang manual, he says something like, you know, Jesus clearly like was a very captivating speaker according to like what is said, and so like he would draw great crowds, so he must have been really flowing. Like he must have been fucking, which is sort of a profound statement, because usually you don't really think about like how Jesus was presenting what he said in the Bible, whether you believe in it or not, whether you believe it really happened or whatever, but usually you don't really think about the presentation of it. But to have such a captivated crowd, one might think Jesus was like putting on a real hell of a fucking show. And so, you know, like people put on a real hell of a fucking show sometimes, like a Ghostface Killah when he's really hitting it, like with the song Shaky Dog, for example, or The Champ. He's really in the fucking pocket. He's hitting it. He's fucking hitting it. And John from Korn fucking hits it. Like this chorus from Here to Stay. So I take my time, guiding the blade. I mean, I'm not. I may not get the cadence, but the way he delivers the line, so I take my time, and then guiding the blade down the line, each cut closer to the vein. So I take my time, guiding the blade down the line, each cut closer to the vein. Not only is he doing something really cool and really catchy and really in the pocket there rhythmically, but he's sort of doing like word painting, where it sounds like if that is what this is, but I've heard one of those. I had heard this term before, and then recently I heard one of those like vocal coaches listens to metal, and she talks about like word painting. One of them with Bruce Dickinson, I think, doing "Hallowed Be Thy Name," and maybe particularly saying the part where he says like "strange illusion," you know, that part. But but here with the word painting part of it, it's like, so I take my time, guiding the blade down the line. It sounds like he's fucking roller skating, or like roller blading, or like ice skating. And when he says guiding the blade down the line, he's really talking about like you know, a blade on a wrist kind of situation. Not to offend anybody here, say that, but really he's saying the blade. And it's interesting because I was watching a Rob Ager video recently, I think about one of his like part 1, 2, or 3 maybe of the Jordan Peterson versus Kathy Newman debate analysis on TV analysis thing. It was, you know, he said something about like words have, of course, different meanings. And he's like, you know, when you hear a word with 2 different meanings, like the word read, for example, I read this book, you might also, he said something like, on some level, and I don't know if this would be for all words that can have different meanings or what, but like he was saying, like on some level, similar to like a double entendre being used for a joke, on some level you are feeling both meanings of that word, and on the conscious level you're hearing the word, and in the context generally you hear it the way it's intended, like, oh, I read that book. Read for reading, the past tense of read, you know, oh, I read that book. But on some level, he said, like subconsciously maybe or something, you're also thinking of the word, you're also thinking of the color red. And so in here, in this line, Jonathan Davis or Davison or whatever, he uses the word blade, but he sings it as if he's like roller skating or roller blading, or kind of like ice skating, like skating down like sort of a swivelly kind of fast path. A beautiful, whimsical kind of, but swivelly and fast path, and faster. So he says, so I take my time guiding the blade down the line, and he like sings it as if he's like, and the word blade, it also is used in the term rollerblade, and so it sounds like he's rollerblading, and I think on some level he catches it just with precisely the right timing, where you hear the word blade and then you sort of feel like he's rollerblading with the rhythm of what he's saying. But he times it perfectly enough where it feels like he is rollerblading, even though it's halfway through what he says in the rollerblading context, but it feels like the entire time he's been rollerblading with you there. But, just generally, John from Korn, he is a great singer, and he's a great showman, and, like, a lot of the time, I will say, a main reason, maybe, that I stopped listening to Korn, but just their whole aesthetic, but a lot of it was, like, the sound of his stuff, like, his sort of lyrics being so dark and, like, Overcast, like very, like the Atmosphere album, very dark and like melancholy, like to the point of kind of self-parody, or to the point of feeling like kind of Linkin Parky lyrics, where it just feels not superficial, but it feels very kind of purple, and not even purple like they're doing something interesting with it or grand, just sort of purple in the sense of like it feels kind of like melodramatic maybe, but melodramatic in sort of like a chintzy kind of like show businessman dishonesty sense. Like it felt like a persona, and it was like, more like, woe is me, everything's bad, and I'm gonna sing in this register a lot. Jonathan Davison of Korn, or from Korn, or whatever. He has a voice that if you're not sort of like connecting with it in a certain way, then it just sounds very unpleasant. And the guitars and the music and like the tones and the melodies and the rhythms, it all sounds very unpleasant, like just a really unpleasant like rap song, or a really unpleasant like loud kind of rocky or metal song. Like it just sounds really unpleasant if you're not engaging with it. But nevertheless, if you do engage with it, then it's some of the best stuff ever. And it really is just, his stuff from the first album, and then his stuff from the second album, it's like every album has not only sort of a newish sound for the band, or at least many of them, but it sort of has a newish approach from Jonathan Davis. So his first album, he was very angry, very yelly. The song Daddy, he famously just like cries for like more than a minute, and it's just like, and like the lyrics themselves when he's singing in that song are like no more comfortable. In fact, they're like less comfortable. He's singing about like being raped as a child. It's like really, really horrible shit that he's singing about, and like it is apparently like kind of autobiographical, but I think it was supposed to have happened with like a certain person in relation to him, but in the song he makes it sound like a different person. Like the song is titled Daddy, but I don't think it was actually Daddy in real life. But it like very just horrific stuff, and very unpleasant, and then just very unpleasant. And the album even ends like maybe after some silence. It ends with this like unpleasant recording of like a guy arguing with like his wife and calling her stupid and stuff. Like it's really like sewage. Like it's really unpleasant shit. But there's some beauty, like with the song Hollow Life, like however he sings that in the album Untouchables. Untouchables I thought of like a sort of smeary, like poopy kind of ugly kind of shit, and I think I might have been really thinking more of the aesthetic of the album cover, because the album sort of has that sound, but it's like smearing poop over a wall or over like a pane of plastic in a beautiful way. So, if you can get what I'm sort of saying with all this, like he's got the rhythm, he's got a different approach. The first album, he's very rough and abrasive. The second album, he's kind of rough and abrasive, but in more of like a kind of a fry screaming way or more of just like kind of like a groove metal kind of way, similar to the Randy Blythe stuff, or like kind of groovy, kind of like in the flow, pockets and whatever it is. But and the Good God is on that album, the song where he's like, why don't you get the fuck out of my face? No, won't you get the fuck out of my face? No, won't you get the fuck out of my face? No, won't you get the fuck out of my face? No! Like, that song. Like, that's on that album. But then the third album, it's more Funky Town. It's more like, that album has All in the Family in it, where he's literally rapping against fucking Fred Durst, and it's way more funny and way more uncomfortable than you might ever think it would be, but I love it. It's an incredible song. Just like the performances, it is so fun. But then you've got Freak on a Leash, where he's doing like his most polished, most classic singing, and he does this like rat-a-doom bop-a-diddle, room bop-a-doom bop-a-diddle. But then like in the song Dead Bodies Everywhere, or no, rather, well, Dead Bodies Everywhere, you really want me to be a good song. Why do you make me feel like I love the rhythm of that song. That song's fun. Like there's a very funky rhythm in that album and Got the Life and stuff. But then he shares the stage with fucking Ice Cube and Children of the Corn, and that's fucking awesome. And and then Issues has like a very vampire kind of sound. It's very scary, but also kind of cool that they played part of the song from that album, Falling Away from Me, in the South Park Halloween episode with Korn. But it's just all such good stuff, and and then of course Untouchables. It's this beautiful, soaring, ethereal, heavenly, celestial Jonathan Davis or Jonathan Davison on